spa-like bathroom gets all the hype, from soft, fluffy towels to multi-head showers to bath oils and soaps, all kinds of things just to pamper yourself with. Well, how about being able to reach the sink or get on the toilet, or maybe even access and have a bath or a shower? Now, those things are a luxury when you use a walker or a wheelchair. It's going to be a little easier if I do that, because otherwise I can't move. Now, so hi, this is my walker, and this is my bathroom. You can see, I think, let me back up a little bit. I'll show you what happens. This is the vanity. This is the sink. It's here. So, I'm going to move you out of the tub. You're sitting in the tub. Okay, this is the sink on my vanity. I'm seated in my walker here. Okay, as close as I can get, because my knees are there, that far away. So now, if I want to, I've got the brakes on. If I want to reach for the tap, I have to go like that to reach for it. It's not exactly easy. Ideally, this should have a cutout. So let me see if I can get you down low enough to see it. Okay. It should be cut out down here. Because there's my, ouch. There's my legs. Now you can plainly see that there's not a whole lot of room in between the toothbrush and there's the wall there to try and turn a walker, a wheelchair, anything else into a standard bathroom in what would be, we're considered the new subdivision here. So in order to have things changed around, it would have to be widened a little bit in order to put safety bars and different other things up here. The tub is a standard height tub, and I can't get in it, okay, because I can't raise my legs that high. So either you get one of those walk-in tubs put in, or you have a shower, like a zero clearance shower put in. And it means a difference in the drain, and you've got to do blocking in and around downstairs in the basement so that you can support everything that you're going to put in. And the same thing with the wall suite. Now this tub has one of those acrylic inserts, so the bar, hang on a minute, I'll show you. So this is the tub. It's a standard tub, as you can see, there. Okay. It right now holds the mops because you can't get in it, so there's not a whole lot of point. But that is an acrylic wall with the piece made into it to put in the soaps and shampoos and things like that. And that would have to come out. And then you'd have to reinforce in behind it, and that's an outside wall. On that side, there's a window, as you can see there. Okay, and this wall here leads into one of the bedrooms, and this wall over here goes to the downstairs, so it's a staircase there. And that's what this does. And it would be very, very difficult to you'd have to get somebody in to do all this stuff, and you need to get an estimate and things like that. But you have to have a plan ahead of time in order to get it done. Now that plan has to come through, I guess, an occupational or a physical therapist that knows where you're going to need these. I don't know anything about blocking in behind. I know it means like putting little pieces of wood in between, but how do they have to be anchored, and they have to be so thick, and how many do you need for what you're doing, and how do you know how much weight it takes, and how do you know which bar goes where, and all that. It's very strange. Okay, so then you've got that. You then, if you go to ODSP, because if you're on a disability pension, you need to do that, and they will provide funding for some of it. You have to get an estimate from a registered plumbing contractor. I think it's plumbing. But then when you go beyond that, you've also got to go and get a doctor to sign off on the fact that you need this equipment in your bathroom before they'll do anything with it. And in smaller towns, like where I live, right, we have a Silver Cross store here, and they are all over Ontario. They supply these types of things. They'll do installations. They'll come and take a look at what you've got and give you a quote on what needs to be done. Not just for bathrooms, though, for all types of equipment, stair lifts and patio lifts and bed lifts and all of the things that require that type of installation, plus the equipment itself. So that goes all the way from the bars to the beds, to mattresses, to air compressors, to things like that. So they have all that stuff. And I will put a link in the description to show you where to get in touch with them. The other place that I found that was interesting, okay, if you're into doing it on your own, is to go to Amazon.ca. They have pages and pages and pages of items that are usable for making your home more accessible, including bathrooms, and there's tons of stuff in there. There's some beautiful lighting and fixtures. Wow. And so it doesn't have to be a clinical looking room. That is very, I'm looking around here going like, okay, okay, this would need to be changed a lot. Wow. But it would be nice to have it be functional, as I've put some pictures up that you can see for what's around the toilet here. I need to have lift bars, because when I go to stand, and I'll show you here, I need assistance to stand. And so there are bars that go around a toilet that can help you do that. And there's room for them there if there's nothing else there. Right now there's a scale, frightening piece of equipment, and cleaning supplies and stuff. So it would need to be changed. And there is less space between it and the bathroom. My cane is going to fall in. So that side would have to be rethought, because if you're going to have somebody try to get into a tub like that, or you're going to change the configuration of what's there, then what's on the other side is going to matter as well for how you're going to place things. That's my thoughts on what this room is all about. It's a very narrow doorway, as you no doubt have seen, and my walker does not fit through it stretched out. It needs to be pushed in a little bit in order to get through. That too would have to be changed. And you can't do that. You can't squish a wheelchair through a door. So, this is the top of my walker. So this is how far it stretches. These are my canes here. And it does, I sit in it quite often because it's easier to move around. And in order to get out of here, I'm gonna have to make it about that wide. You can pretty much make two groups out of accessible bathrooms. Those being residential and public. They have many of the same problems, but the solutions for those problems are different. And one of the problems that is, I think, unique to public bathrooms is, and especially here in Northern Ontario, is our outdoor bathrooms close in October and don't reopen again until April, the end of April, just simply because the weather is too cold. So it's actually funny to think about, but yes. So when you're out in the wintertime, it's a difficult thing to have to contend with, because you have to find like a restaurant or something. Even if you're out hiking, you have to find a restaurant. Especially if you are someone that has a disability and needs the sorts of bars and lifts and supports that are necessary. My partner and I, Warwick, we went to Sault Ste. Marie. It was one of the first times he had been there, one of the first times I had been there. And we were looking around the square down by the water, surrounded by hotels and different things there, but the canal is there that you go up and through to get into the United States. And so we were looking at statues. There were lots of bears in the statues, and it was really quite pretty down there and wide open. And there were 4 or 5 buildings that all had bathrooms in them. Didn't think a thing of it. We were there. We were, sightseeing and doing our thing. And it was April, and spring had come really early and really nice and warm, and it was terrific. Until we needed a bathroom. Not a single door was unlocked. I kept thinking, oh, they'll show up. Like, it'll be like maybe noon. They'll show up and they'll open a door. Like, even one, right? But no, nothing. And we had breakfast at Tim Hortons, like all good Ontarians do, hours before, as we were driving up, and we needed a bathroom. And there wasn't one to be had. And you start getting a bit desperate, and like I was going green around the gills, and like, oh, it was hard to keep moving and stuff, and you just sort of, you want to cry and you want to laugh at the same time, because it's like, what are you supposed to do? Anyway, we ended up having to make a mad dash back to the car, get in the car, drive around in a place we didn't know, and we finally found a donut shop that was open and that we could go into, and so yeah, and it was a tiny bathroom, or like it was not accessible at all, and it was it was fun, and we ended up buying more stuff to eat, which we didn't want, but we bought it because it was, didn't want to be quite so obvious that we're, well, what can I say? It was an embarrassing moment, but nonetheless, it's the kind of stuff that happens, right? But, and it's happened a lot. I think it's one of the things that needs to be looked at here, to say, okay, what are we going to do in order to make an accessible bathroom that anyone can use? So not only people with disabilities, but mothers who have their kids out and stuff, and they're taking them tobogganing, and they need to have a bathroom to go to. So just different little considerations there that we need to have for that winter season. That doesn't mean you got to go and try and jump into a car and get to some place where there's a bathroom for you to use. There needs to be something available, and it does need to be thought about. But what I would like to do now is share with you a discussion that was had in one of the groups that I'm a member of on Facebook, which is a day in the life of a PWD person with a disability. And it is a wonderful group with a very involved and active community on it. You can learn so much, and you can be a part of so many really great discussions about things that you think, oh, they're only, it's only here, and it's only me that gets upset, but it's not. It's an everywhere problem that they discuss about all sorts of things. And the creator behind the group's concept is Amethyst Drew N. Morris. And a really good job was done on this group. I really, really, really recommend it highly. And so now I'd like to share the comments with you, which I think you will find very interesting. Now, I found most of these comments really, really interesting. Right? Things like this one says, I'm not sure how common this is, but I watched a video the other day, and it sounds like, for that person, it's important to have both the changing table for getting clothes adjusted and into the right position, and the toilet in the same space. They also pointed out their need for a smaller toilet seat. He just sunk right down into the normal one. They mentioned they own a specific toilet seat that works for him, but they'd forgotten to bring it, or maybe it didn't fit in their luggage. Since this isn't my experience, I can't really give any directions on what would be best in his case, but it certainly gave me something to think about. When you're talking about, there are all sorts of clothing options for people who are in wheelchairs, who use walkers, who have difficulty dressing. And there is a need to have the space, if you have a caretaker with you or if you do it alone, that you can spend the time to adjust the clothing to get it to where you need it to be, where it is comfortable, where you are covered in the way that you want to be covered. All of those things. And so to have a change table that will accommodate an adult in an accessible bathroom is something that needs to be considered. Not every bathroom is going to be able to have one, and that's fine, but it is something that needs to be considered and put in at certain locations. And it might be nice to have some sort of city directory, if that makes sense, for people who need this type of information to be able to access it. Somebody continued this thought and said, if you want an adult changing table, then you haven't got enough room. It can't be well mounted like a baby one and needs a hoist. Each accessible stall needs a sink and drying facilities because either the disabled person or their carer may need to wash their hands as they go along. It needs plenty of room for a second person to walk around too. Then they have included a link here that you can check out if you'd like. This link is the gold standard in the UK. We don't always get one of these, but it's guaranteed when you find one to have everything and space. And this is a changing places toilet. I never thought of this. And I use a walker, and I just kind of stretch. It might seem like a small thing, but please be sure to have a handle on the inside of the stall door. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm a wheelchair user with limited hand function, and often there's no way for me to pull the stall door closed. Can you imagine? A regular bathroom user, and you couldn't get the stall door closed, what would you do? Would you feel comfortable going like, excuse me, but could you push that door towards me? And then I can maybe hook it with my foot or whatever, which somebody who's in a wheelchair can't do. And like, interesting, isn't it? On what you think about and what you don't when you are not faced with having to deal with it. This is going to be a controversial one, I think, although it seems to be a very popular one amongst people with disabilities, and I can understand why. Definitely separate sinks and drying facilities inside the cubicles. Not only is this better for folks with physical challenges, but for us blindies too. Nothing worse than trying to bumble your way around a bathroom with a guide dog on one arm and trying to find a sink, then a dryer or a trash can. My personal preference isn't for a hand dryer, as they can scare assistance dogs, but I recognize that others find them preferable. So a choice of dryer or towel dispenser would get my vote too. So yeah, you can, again, right, when you're thinking of someone who can't see and they have a guide dog with them, you don't usually think of the dog at all, and what might be happening there. And having that dog out in what can be at times a very crowded area, especially a women's bathroom where we all like to check hair and makeup and make sure we've got the bags and the purses and the hair is done and all that kind of stuff. It can be a long go for a dog, and then there's all kinds of noise, and we chat and we laugh and all that kind of stuff. So it would be nice to be able to put yourself to rights and get cleaned up and everything with your dog in some sort of privacy, and then be able to leave and exit. That's for your safety, for the dog's safety, and just the calmness of the whole sort of interaction. I wish disabled people were routinely consulted when it came to designing accessible facilities or services. I live in the UK, and whilst the number of accessible spaces is increasing, it often seems like designs for physical spaces are created based on what is thought disabled people would find accessible from a non-disabled perspective. Weirdly, hospital toilets, of all places, can be especially inaccessible. That is true, even here in Canada. Things like the weight of doors or accessible user-friendly soap and hand towel dispensers where dryers are unavailable are frequently seemingly not considered. And that's true. I'm not overly tall, okay, I'm 5'9", but there's a particular bathroom at our hospital here where, first of all, to get into, you kind of have to shoulder yourself into the door in order to get it to open because it's heavy. And then when you get in, the toilet is low. And a part of my problem is very bad knees. And okay, they have the bars there, but it's one of those things where, as I get to the point where I'm almost seated, I just kind of let my my feet go, and it's interesting. All right, and then you have to find someplace to put your legs, like, because you're down that low, so you kind of stretch it so that you can be at a particular height, and then you've got to try and stand up, so you've got to put your arms and grab the bars, which are lower, and push yourself up. And all I ever hear when that goes on, my knees crack like mad. It's like ping, pong, pong, and then there's one really sharp sort of like crack thing, and yeah, it can be fun. And this is another one for the change place bathroom. It is accessible by a special key that you can order from their company, or you can borrow keys from councils, or usually a business has a key. The roof hoist, bring your own sling, height adjustable sink, and an adult change table, shower, and plenty of space. They should be available everywhere. Oh, and I agree with this last line. Build inclusive to start, and it will benefit everyone. And that's the truth. And inclusion is also matters of gender neutral. This is important, and it's important in many, many ways, and one of those is dignity. As Melanie said, a small shelf or counter space for ostomy care. Ostomy. A sink that is flexible heights. Not all disabled people use a wheelchair. Bins that are not pedal powered. That's true. As it's almost impossible if you're in a wheelchair or you use crutches. Hand dryer or paper towels next to the sink so that you don't have to put your wet hands on your mobility aids. Yes, please. Walking sticks, crutches, etc. A great suggestion from someone: spend a day in your local city and try getting around using a wheelchair, crutches, rollator, walking stick, etc. And it will give you an entirely different perspective. That is true too. And thank you so much for reaching out and not just assuming what people need. Do you know, I made the suggestion once that people who were in a position of power give it a try, spending a day, different ways, draw lots to see who was going to get to spend the day in a wheelchair, using a walker, someone who is going to be blind for the day, and deaf and so on, and then see how well you can manage going around your city. What would happen to you? Do you know nobody wanted to do it? Because they didn't have anything to prove. No. But then neither does a person who has that particular disability. We deserve just as much opportunity to utilize our city to the fullest of its potential with the help that we need. Accessible bathrooms are a necessity. They are not a luxury. Everybody deserves the right to go with their privacy intact, their dignity intact, and their comfort intact as well. I hope that we've presented some food for thought here, and please let me know what you think in the comments. I look forward to reading them and having future discussions on this topic and many, many others about accessibility. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you again very, very soon.